Good afternoon, everyone. We are from Asia Pacific Group. My name is Rowency Garcia, and I am with Mr. Yizhen Zhao, our registered migration agent. Today, he will discuss the latest immigration program update. Please be informed. This is just for information purposes only. Any advice, particularly with your own cases, please make sure to talk to a registered migration agent for any advice. Thank you.
Hey, hello. Yes, my name is Zach. How is everyone? Sorry, we ran a little bit late. Yes, so this is going to be a very exciting year for skill migrations. As most of you might have heard the news, we received a lot of 189 visa invitations last week on 22nd of August, and we have exciting news and encouraging news from almost all the states and state governments. So initially, we were going to we planned this for Victoria sponsorship. But as you will find out later on, Victoria sponsorship program is so straightforward this year. It will take maybe 5 minutes to finish. So I decided to add every other states that are available for us. Yes, hopefully you'll find the information useful. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so first encouraging news is 189 visa, the independent skilled visa. That's I would call it the best permanent residency visa in Australia. It doesn't have any conditions attached. Basically, you tell the Department of Home Affairs that this is me and I'm good enough. They give you an invitation. It's PR. It actually requires less paperwork than most of other skilled migration visas. It's reasonably priced, quick to process, and it's a straightforward PR without any conditions. And on 22nd of August, we were very pleasantly surprised by a massive amount of invitations. Personally, I received more invitation than 2021 whole year on that particular day. And my clients, the minimum points I received was 70 points, but I've seen quite a few reports saying even 65 points candidates were invited to apply for this visa. So that's a very big progress we made. And most of the applicants from nurse, all subclasses of nurse, early childhood teachers, well, with 65 points, and all the other health and care industry occupations received the invitation. And I also see a civil engineer with 95 points got invited, and chefs, multiple chefs with 80 points were invited. Basically, if your occupation, if they are on the high demanded or rather medium and long-term skill list, you should consider going for a 189 visa. There is no cost to choose this additional option. And unlike the trend from 2018-19 up until last year, 189 visa was getting harder and harder. And I would say this is a very big change, showing that the government is willing to invite more overseas or onshore and offshore skilled people to join to deal with the labor shortage here. So once again, go for 189 visa. It's just that you have to go for the express of interest system anyway. So just take 189 visa regardless. And who knows? Maybe you get an invitation. And there are reasons to believe that in the next few months they will keep this going, and other occupations will be benefited too, like chefs. Maybe at the moment you need 80 points. Maybe later it is 75 or 70. Who knows? All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and now there are 190 and 491 visa. We held sessions to discuss these two visas, so I'll skip the details. But in a nutshell, 190 visa is a state-sponsored visa. It's a straightaway PR with the condition that you are committed to that particular state for 2 years. The 491 visa is a temporary visa with PR option. Basically, once you get that visa, you need to live, work, and possibly study in regional area with everyone on that visa, say your partner, your kids, and after 3 years and meeting the minimum earning requirement, you will have the option to apply for a permanent residency. The income requirement, by the way, is $53,900. We will have the first batch of the 491 visa to PR from November this year. This is because this visa was made available 3 years ago in November, just shortly before the pandemic, unfortunately. And for this year, we still don't know how many people each state can invite, but the state have confirmed that they have received interim allocations for the time being until October 2022. That's when the federal government hand down their budget for this financial year. So for the time being, each state were told by the department, okay, for now you can play with how many numbers, 500, 300, and you can use this number until October this year. After that, we'll give you a formal allocation for the rest of the financial year. And from what we can see, some of the states disclosed the number, and some states didn't, like Northern Territory. They didn't say how many, but from the states that disclosed the number, it's much bigger than last year. Some say it's 3 or 4 times than the last year's number, or predicted to be, because we don't have the whole picture yet. But as we have seen, quite a few states have made a few invitation rounds, like ACT and Victoria. They have, and also I got an invitation from Northern Territory today. So they have hand down quite a few invitations. Okay, let's next slide. We'll have the breakdown of each state. First is Victoria. It's literally the easiest state to be considered, but don't get too excited yet because there are catches. So in the website, I'm sure you heard the news. They are considering all the occupations. It has a quote mark because it's not literally all the occupations. For example, if I were a waiter, I can't be considered. It has to be on the occupation of the occupation list. So it's generally a ANSCO 1, 2, and 3 skill level occupations. It's the comprehensive one, not the medium, long-term, short list. It's a long list. So everyone can be considered, and Victoria also take offshore and onshore applicants. For offshore, it's even easier, or at least it sounds easier. It only says you have to commit to living in Victoria by writing a statement or signing that statement. And for onshore applicants, you must be currently working in Australia. They did Victoria. They didn't say how long. So in theory, if you move to Victoria, find a job, next day you can start this application. And you do not have to work on the same occupation. For example, if you declare you are a accountant and you are working as a chef, Victoria government is perfectly fine. You will be considered, and the job has to be again the level 1, 2, or 3 on the ANSCO list. If you don't know what ANSCO is, just Google it. It should be. It's very straightforward. It's the dictionary of all the occupations in Australia. There are 5 skill levels. Currently, Victoria is accepting skill level 1, 2, and 3. And there's a very strange thing that you must declare your income if you are currently working in Victoria. It's very clear to us that your current income is a part of the consideration. Okay, that's all the good news of Victoria. Not so good news is that they are opening the pool to almost everyone, but they only have so many tickets to give. Obviously, it leads to the conclusion that it's, sorry, we are still in Victoria slide. Victoria is going to be very competitive, and we don't know at the end of the day how many points are going to be needed for Victoria candidates to get an invitation. But it's reasonable to say that, as always, 491 regional skill visa will be slightly easier than 190 because you are facing less competitors and less people are willing to go to a regional area. For now, we have heard news. People get invitations around 80 points, but I just let me remind you that we are only at the beginning of this invitation year, so we are not sure what's going to happen next 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I'm quite sure that Victorian government has not made the plan yet. They are going to check the numbers and see how many people are going to apply, and comparing to the numbers they can give. So later on we'll have more information. But this is very encouraging because we can include all the occupations. So Victoria, for once, Victoria is the best state for skill migration. So yeah. One more thing, Andrew, the Premier of Victoria, in a few days ago, he made an announcement that he's going to focus on health occupations. So we are still going to focus on nurses, doctors, and midwives, even though we have been inviting a massive amount last year and the year before. We are still going to prioritize on those occupations. So that's for Victoria. Let's move to the next. Thanks. For New South Wales, it's similar but different from last year. They are open for offshore applicants, but if you have been living in any of the state other than New South Wales, you are not you are not considered as offshore applicants. To be an offshore applicant, you have to be outside Australia for at least 6 months for 190 visa, or 3 months for 491 visa. For example, if I were in, let's say, Victoria in April this year, and it has been 4 months, and from April I went back to my home country, it has been 4 months. I cannot declare that I'm an offshore applicant for 190 visa because it's less than 6 months, but I can declare as a 491 visa because it's greater than 3 months. And for the 190 visa, at the moment, they said the rule is very straightforward, just similar to Victoria. Sorry, still that page. Yeah. So for the 190 visa, the rule is still very straightforward. You go for the EOI, Express of Interest system. You put your name there, and you click. You are interested in New South Wales. You have to tick New South Wales directly. You cannot tick the box say I'm interested in other states. You have to make a dedicated commitment to New South Wales, and they will compare all the occupations and send you an invitation, give you 14 days to apply for the New South Wales invitation. Similar to 491, but there are two pathways for the 491. Pathway number 1 is very similar to the one we had last year. Each of the RDA or regional government authority, I don't know what D is for. Anyway, each RDA or local authority will have a list. Say, let's say in Riviera, we want to invite these occupations this year, and if you see your occupation is on the list, you can apply, send them the invitation form in an email, and later on they will say, okay, we want you, and they give you an invitation. That's pathway number 1, highly similar to the one we had last year. Pathway number 2 is similar to the 190 pathway. It's much simplified. So just lodge EOI and wait for New South Wales invitation. The thing about New South Wales is they haven't, last time I checked a few hours ago, they haven't published their skilled nomination list. So we still don't know which occupations are considered and which occupations are not. And they may impose additional requirements on this list. For example, they have implied that local work experience may be required by nomination. If you want to go for 491 pathway 1. They haven't said how many years or months of experience yet, but it may be noted on the nomination list. For example, if you want to be nominated as a chef, they said chef bracket 6 months experience. It means that you will have to be working in that local area for 6 months before you can be eligible for as a chef. But overall, it's much simpler than last year. And it's encouraging because usually New South Wales will have a very broad list. They try to consider all the occupations because it's a big state, and they have the variety of needs of occupations. For example, almost all the accountants I received invitation was from New South Wales yesterday, last year, not yesterday, last year, and most of them were from 190, some of them from 491. Okay, that's it for New South Wales. Next slide, please. Yes, Tasmania is going to be not worth it if you ask me. It's not opened yet, but from what they published, you can already tell that they are getting way complicated and then difficult for the popularity. At the moment, there are two lists. One is TOSOL, Tasmania Occupation Skilled. Oh, sorry, Tasmania Onshore Skilled Occupation List. So that's the list they may consider. If your occupation is not on that list, they will not consider you at this stage. But that list is quite broad. And there's another list called Critical Roles List. That's the priority list. So in this year in Tasmania, you will see on the next slide later, but there are 3 tiers: gold, green, and orange. And by the way, they are only considering onshore applicants for now. They may open to offshore applicants later, but for now, onshore only. And if we turn to next slide, I'll explain to you what gold, green, and orange means. So if you are on that list called critical roles list, you are on the gold list. They, according to the Tasmania government, they will prioritize all the resource to invite those people. You have to have the skill assessment and a relevant employment for at least 3 months in the past 3 months to be eligible for gold. And there's green. You have to be working for 6 months and 6 months in Tasmania on a relevant skill assessment. And also you have to be working for 2 years on the skilled role. That's green. And by the way, your pay and salary needs to exceed the Australian average. And there's orange with additional requirement, but the list is even broader. But for now, Tasmania has not published all the policies, and they are not open for new applicants yet. So a way to be seen. In the past, I've been trying to recommend applicants to go to Tasmania because they have been the rather simpler ones. Usually they will say, okay, if you have this requirement, we'll give you an invitation with a very straightforward requirements. But this year it looks very complicated, and we will know more once they start the invitation rounds. If we go to next place, please. Yeah, Northern Territory is almost exactly like last year. So there are pathways for graduates, pathways for the working in Northern Territory. So you just refer to the last year's policy. Basically, just to remind you, Northern Territory is very strict when it comes to the family members. Let's say if you are in a family, every member of that family must be in Northern Territory. If let's say if my wife is working in Northern Territory and I'm working in Victoria, they will refuse the nomination. And if if my child is studying in other states, they will refuse the nomination without any negotiation. Also, if they have invited you for 491 visa, they will not give you a 190 visa ever. They pretty much just issue invitations, one per applicant only. And at the moment, it's not open for offshore applicants, only the onshore ones. By the way, a lot of people get confused. There is a migration pathway. There is a migration pathway for the NT graduates. You need to graduate from the NT, but there are additional requirements. For example, you need to get a 485 visa, and you have to be living in Northern Territory for like 6 months before you can apply for the graduate visa. I'm saying quite a few states are doing this now, but in the past, graduate stream usually implies that you have to graduate from that state, and then you can get an invitation. Starting from Northern Territory, you will have to, after graduation, you have to get a 485 visa, and then you have to get the work in the state for for a period of time. And for Northern Territory only, they require you to be a 485 visa. So if you are on any other visas, you may not get a invitation. So it has to be 485. or at least according to their policy. Next slide, please. Yeah, for Queensland, also it's similar to, yeah, for Queensland, it's also similar to last year. There are three main streams. Oh, technically there are four. I'm gonna quickly go through the fourth one, but the first one is offshore applicants. They have additional points requirement. For 190, you have to have 80 points. For the 491 application, you have to have 65 points. Also, you have to have proficient English. That means you have to have 7.0 in IELTS or 65 in PTE in each band, not overall, but in each band. And you have to have 3 years post-study experience, highly relevant to your occupation. It doesn't have to be in Australia. So let's say if I'm from China, I graduated from computer science. I've been a programmer for 3 years. I will be eligible for this. Well, if I have enough points, I'll be eligible for this option. But if I have less than 3 years experience, they will say no. That's for onshore applicants only. And there is a second pathway, graduate student pathway. It has a slight change. So PhD or doctor students and master student can apply for both pathways, 190 and 491. For the bachelor student, you can only apply for the 491 visa. The 190 visa will not be available to you. And for the master and the bachelor student, you must show related work experience, employment in the Queensland. It doesn't say how long. So technically, if you get a job and tomorrow you'll be eligible, you can apply. Unlike the offshore stream, you can see 3 years work experience was required. And there is another pathway called Working Queensland. Also straightforward, 6 months. If you want to apply for 190 visa, you have to work in Queensland for 6 months and has to be related to work. And if you want to apply for the 491, 3 months related work. And there's another stream called a small business stream, but it's a bit complicated. So I'm not going to waste your time here. If you are interested for that stream, I'm happy to give you a one-on-one consultation for that. Basically, you need to run a small business and meet the basic requirement for the skill visa, namely age between 18 and 45, meet the English requirement, skill assessment requirement, and 65 points requirement. These four. If you meet these four and happy to run a small business in Queensland, you may be eligible, but individual consultation only. Let's move to the next slide, please. Yeah, for the ACT Canberra, it's also very encouraging. They have issued 2 invitation rounds, as far as I know already, and the invitation points is lower than last year by at least 5 points. And for a lot of occupations, we have seen 75 invitation points. And I have seen reports saying that someone got an invitation with 70 points, but I haven't personally seen any of these cases. But it's safe to say that ACT has been very actively inviting people this financial year, unlike last year. And they are accepting onshore and offshore applicants. There's a very strange thing. According to the report, they invited more offshore applicants than onshore ones in the first round. Not sure why, and I'm not sure if it's going to be the policy for this year. I'm going to guess that they are still going to prioritize the onshore applicants because it's much easier to keep those people to overcome the labor shortage. And by the way, ACT runs a very complicated selection system called Matrix. You can just Google ACT Matrix and find more information. Basically, they similar to the EOI system. They evaluate your age, experience, relationship status, employment history, occupation, among other things, and a contribution in the ACT. For example, if you have a relative in ACT, how long have you been living in ACT? How long have you been working in ACT? Have you made any property investment in ACT? So there, and you can get a point score. And at the moment, most of the people invited are above 75 points. Safe to say, if you are already living or you have been working or studying in ACT, you should consider that and do a point evaluation. Again, you can contact me after this session, and more than happy to give you a point assessment here. There are two more states, WA and SA. They have not published the full policy yet, so they are to be updated. I'm not able to provide you any information with accuracy today, so maybe for next time. But South Australia has been a very welcoming state in the past. Their policy has been easy, straightforward, and reliable, and also their office has been quick to issue invitations. So I'm really looking forward to see what South Australia will do this year. For WA, because we are located in Victoria, to be honest, I don't have access to a lot of their applicants there. So again, we have to wait for their policy to be published, and let's see what they want. I remember reading their website that they have a priority system. Basically, they are for the 190 visa, they are going to have a tier of things they want, and they put more weight on and less weight on. Obviously, the time you apply is going to be a factor, your English, your occupation, but we don't have the details yet. So maybe for next time. And this covers all the states and independent visa, so all the skill migration program. I hope this is informative to you. And if you have any questions, please ask now. Just let me know what you want me to answer.
Hi, Zach. We received a question from one of our attendees. Her question is, for NSW, do they need to wait for the priority list before they apply for 190 or 491?
For NSW, there's not a priority list. There's a general list. So basically, they say, we will consider all these people. Unfortunately, that list has not been published yet. So there cannot be any invitation yet. They are still deciding who to invite and what if there are any additional requirements. But far as I know, they haven't. Unlike Tasmania, Tasmania has two lists: a broad list and a critical list. As far as I know, New South Wales does not have one. New South Wales has a state list, and the regional body, the RDAs, they may have their special list for the regional body. There are 7 or 8 regional places, and they are quite flexible. They change their list all the time, but I wouldn't call it a priority list either.
All right.
Hope that, yeah.
Okay. We have Marie. Did Zach answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. There's another one from Abigail Ko. Which one applies to someone who has a student visa in Masters of Social Work, but it's already more than 40, but the student is more than 45 years old?
Unfortunately, at the moment, there isn't a pathway in skill migration, and there are only very few age exemptions available for employment visas. So mainly for Dharma program. If you are over 45 years age, I'm sorry to say, anything you hear today here does not apply. Unless they ease the age requirement, move to 50, which is a possibility given the severe severe shortage we are experiencing in Australia, to be announced, I guess. But okay, just one more thing. I mentioned the Dharma program. It may be applied to you, but it's you need to find an employer that's eligible for Dharma Dharma program, and you need to sign a sponsorship agreement with the employer, and that employer must be in the area that has the access to H exemption. So it's as you can hear, it's a bit complicated. So if you want more information, more than happy to give you a private session, private consultation.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
From Marco, for Victoria, can the flight attendant can apply for an invitation for PR directly?
Flight attendant, that's a good question.
For Victoria?
For Victoria, I don't think so. Flight attendant does not have a skill level 1, 2, or 3 skill level. Let me just do a quick search on the list. Attendants. Just can you just bear with me for 1 second? I'm doing a quick search. Yeah, I don't remember all the occupations in my head. Just checking our database. And it's slow. Sorry, my computer is a little slow. Flight attendant there.
He got I think 10 years experience and got vet assess ready.
Vet assess ready.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, so you already got a vet assess. Okay, that's good. Okay, 491 visa may be available to you, but 190 isn't. So, but then again, it's very difficult for the government to justify why they need a flight attendant in the regional area. So just to answer your question, you have you can apply for this visa, but I'm not too sure when and if you can get an invitation for this year. It has, as I mentioned, there are a lot of factors. One is the government's take on your occupation and the area you nominated. Also, how many points you have. You have a very long work experience. That's definitely going to work for you. But there are other things like still other things like if you have a relative in Victoria, if you have a current relevant employment in Victoria, how much is your salary, which is one of the assessment. Strangely, you have to declare your income in this year in Victoria, and they definitely are going to make that a part of a assessment.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. No problem.
From Janice S13, she's asking if are they able to apply for 190 or 491? Do they still need to complete the 485 first before applying, or they can apply?
No, it's not relevant unless you are in Northern Territory. And in other states, they allow the invitation program as soon as you meet the requirement. So it depends. If the states does not have a say employment requirement like Victoria, you can apply now even on student visa. Victoria only, just to be accurate, Victoria only asks you to be currently working in Victoria. They didn't say for how long. So get a job, next day you'll be eligible. But 485 visa usually is not required unless you are in Northern Territory.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Please be informed to those who we haven't answer your questions, or we have a special case that you want to discuss with our registered migration agent. Please feel free. The nearest Asia Pacific office.
Yeah, sorry, I see a question here. Let me just read it. On IT, can both your overseas experience and onshore experience be added on applying for PR, or only one? Okay. When you assess your point doing the EOI, onshore and offshore point experience are assessed separately. So onshore experience are slightly more valuable. You can get 5 points for first year and 10 points for 3 years, 15 points for 5 years, and 20 points for 8 years of relevant experience inside Australia. For offshore, you don't get points for 1 year, 5 points for 3 years, 10 points for 15 years. 10 points for 5 years, and 15 points for 8 years. You cannot combine them together, but it's rather assessed separately. You cannot say I have 1 year, half a year onshore experience and 2 years offshore experience. Can I get 5 points? No, you cannot. It has to be assessed separately. But when you apply for PR, there are two things. One is for the federal government or 189 visa, you have to calculate and declare your points. So you count them separately. When you apply for the state government application, they look at your profile more into details. So and they will decide whether you are attractive, more attractive or less so. For example, if you have more onshore experience, they definitely will. In the state experience, they definitely will prioritize you, because you just showed that you are employable and you have made the commitment, and you are almost already settled in that state. Definitely like you. Having said that, if you have extensive overseas experience, also says that you have been working in the industry, you are more likely to be able to find a job in the state. Recent experience is better than ancient one, and onshore experience is better than the offshore one. Relevant experience is definitely better than not so much one. But it's not an exact science. I cannot tell you, okay, 1 year here, you definitely get the invitation. It doesn't work like that. It's they look at your profile as a whole picture and make assessment there. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I'm still receiving direct messages. Please,
Yeah, sure.
to those who want a private consultation, please leave your contact details, full name and email address, so our team can contact you later on. And yeah, we can arrange a booking
Sorry.
for you. Okay. Can we check more questions?
Yeah. Do we have more questions?
So from Ellie, can the part-time work you've done on your student visa be considered as onshore experience, like working as student nurse while studying?
It depends. So for the trade qualification, usually so. For example, if you are a chef and you have already completed the certificate 3 in commercial cookery, most likely you will be able to claim that experience. But for the professional experience, usually not, unless you have a previous experience. I'll give you an example. If let's say if I studied a Master of IT in Australia, and my bachelor degree was something irrelevant, say business, I will not be able to declare the experience because the department does not believe I'm qualified to declare experience. But if I studied a Bachelor of IT, then come to Australia and study a Master of IT, I can use this experience because by finishing the bachelor, I'm already experienced and I can declare this experience. And also, you need to declare at least 20 hours a week to become to call yourself employed. But look, some of the states will have additional requirements. They will say you must have a full-time employment. In that case, it's either 35 to 38 hours per week. Most of the states will allow you to combine part-time experience or use part-time experience on a discount to declare full-time experience. For example, if I've been working 20 hours a week for a fortnight, I usually will be able to declare a full 1 week full-time experience. With some exceptions, you have to give me the individual states before I can answer this question. But overall, just let me sum up. Overall, if it's a professional occupation, and you need to have a qualification, minimum qualification before you can declare the experience. If it's a trade qualification, usually they are relaxed and you will be allowed to use that.
Okay, thanks for that. We have one more. Hi,
Yeah.
I graduate Master in Engineering in Queensland and had 5 months experience, but currently unemployed and on 485 visa. Am I eligible for Victoria or Northern Territory?
Victoria and Northern Territory. No, you're not eligible for Victoria because the requirement is you have to is that you have to be working in Victoria. They do check your income and you have to, and employment, so you cannot use Victoria. What you can do is you can come on your 45 visa. You can come to Victoria, find a job. On the next day, you can be eligible. You can apply. What's the other one? Northern Territory, very unlikely. Northern Territory has a tough requirement for commitment. You have to be either graduate from Northern Territory or be working there. And also it's the work experience requirement is longer than that. No problem. Thanks.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
By the way, I'm sorry, just one more thing for this one. I don't see any reason not to, if you are open to find a job in Queensland, just one more month, and you might be able to get a Queensland nomination. And also you can try a 491 nomination as well in Queensland. 491 visa is a temporary visa, I understand, but it's almost as good as a PR. So maybe give it a try. It's hard at this point. It's hard to predict any states whether they are going to invite you or not. But what I can tell you is that this year every state will fight for more candidates. They will be very active, trying to recruit people and issuing invitations, unlike the years before. I see there's a last question. Which state is the best for IT? I'm employed now in Victoria and as an IT as well, but is it better here? Victoria, yes, I would say Victoria, because you are already here. If you notice, most of the states will say they are open to in-state applicants, and some of states will be open for offshore applicants. But most of the states, including New South Wales, where they are not accepting interstate applicants, because you showed your commitment to other states. They are much less likely to invite you elsewhere. So to answer your question, if you are currently working in Victoria, the best state is definitely Victoria. There's no question here. If you are happy to, if your visa allows you, and if you move to other states, maybe you can seek other states sponsorship. But for you, definitely Victoria. Try to get more points. Let's say practice of English, get a higher test result. Also get a CCL test if it's eligible. Do the professional year. Do your work experience. And if you have a partner, have him or her to take English test. Get as many points as possible. Also working in Victoria, and that's the best pathway I can think of for you.
All right.
Yeah, best state for Master of Social Work. No problem. Social work for matured age student. First, I'm not sure what matured age is.
Probably
anyone?
she's asking more than 45 years old, Zach.
Okay, more than 45, there isn't any pathway yet, so there is no good state for this skilled visa pathway. If we are talking about someone who's before 45 but nearing, it also depends on which state you studied and which state you are working on right now. As a general rule, the state you are working right now usually is the best one, because they do look at your commitment. Even states like New South Wales, they used to be fine because they are a popular state. This year, they start to say that we invite in-state clients only or offshore clients. So it's going to be choosing between Adelaide and Melbourne. Okay, without going into details, usually I would say Adelaide, because in the past few years, South Australia has been much easier than Melbourne, than Victoria. But this year, Victoria made things strangely easy. I don't know how competitive it will be. So it's hard to tell. Again, also the South Australia has not fully published their policy this year, so hard to choose. But I would say do keep an eye on South Australia always if you have to compare between these two states. always try to see South Australia. Victoria may look easy this year. I've on the day they sorry, on the day they published the policy this year, I've received so many messages saying they are opening to all the occupations. Looks like it's very easy. But if you think just slightly deeper, you will find out that you will think that, okay, if they're open to everyone, they don't have that many of tickets to give, so it's going to be competitive, and it will be hard unless you have the highest point possible. But for South Australia, they have never been that popular, and if you meet their requirement, I can tell you that most likely you will have a invitation. Last year, they have been saying, if you've been working in South Australia for however long, if you are working in Adelaide, or however long if you have been working in outer South Australia, you give an invitation, and it has been quick. So I would recommend you to consider South Australia as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
From Rachel, yes, Rachel, you can book your consultation with us. We have a registered migration agent. Basically, if you can visit your nearest Asia Pacific office, Asia Pacific Group office, because we have in Adelaide, in Melbourne, Reservoir, in Sydney, and in the Philippines as well. But usually for Philippines, we highly recommend that to contact us through email for consultation for our registered migration agent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can I apply in Victoria if I have a skill assessment as an architectural draft person, but machinist in medical manufacturing?
As a
Mechanical machinist in medical manufacturing.
Machinist. Sorry, screen is too small. I was wondering. Machine is questionable. You have to give me more details about your daily work. If you are working on a production line, maybe not. If you are operating a machine that requires a skill level 1, 2, or 3, maybe, or rather maybe or yes, but not working on a highly related occupation may make your profile less attractive to the Victorian government. Just to remind you, for example, if they intend to invite 20 architects or architectural draftsperson, and there are 18 of them already working as a draftsperson, they may just invite another 2. They will definitely invite these 18 first, then choose another 2 who are not working in a related occupation. So you definitely are less competitive this way. But to answer your question, yes, you can apply, and hard to say, but you may have a reasonable chance. Also, it will depend. Also, it will depend on your age, your years of experience in Victoria, your points, how many points you have, your level of English, your family composition, those factors.
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you. Zach,
Yep.
we have lots of interested for one consultation.
Great. That's great. Yeah.
Yes, please feel free to visit our office in Flinders Street, and anyone in Sydney, please feel free to visit the Sydney office as well, and in Adelaide. We are happy. We're gonna be happy to assist you for any cases that you have. Okay, we're gonna entertain one last question. So this is from Bethel. Any pathway for Bachelor of Business but working in aged care?
No, because it will be difficult for you to get a skill assessment as either aged care or some occupation in the business. Basically, there are only very limited occupations in Bachelor of Business, but you definitely need a work experience, and it cannot be aged care. So you need to figure out what pathway you need. Just to sum up, for skill migration, there are 4 basic requirements: age between 18 and 45, English minimum English points requirement 6.0 in IELTS or 65 in PTE, skill assessment, and minimum 65 points. for this case where we're talking about, you may have trouble with the skill assessment, that part. So yeah, you need to figure out what to do rather soon. Okay, just no problem. Yeah, shoot us an email if you want an individual assessment. I'm more than happy to help you and see what we can do to create a pathway for you. Just to sum up, this, as I said in the beginning, this is going to be a very exciting year for skill migration. We have seen a lot of invitations in the past few weeks, and we are expecting many more invitations. So if you are interested in this pathway, first of all, contact us and let us to advise you what to do, and also just get things ready. Let me just repeat myself. Get the things ready: English test, skill assessment, point as many points as possible, and good luck. You're very likely to get some good results this year, and yeah. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you. Yes. I think all good for now. Zach, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone and for attending our webinar today. And hopefully we'll see you again for the future. And yeah, we have lots of incoming webinars, so from different updates with regards to education and also in migration. So yes, thank you everyone. Please feel free to contact us, and yeah, thank you
Have a
so
great
much,
evening.
Zach, for the very informative session.